I took a media and social change class with Professor Lockridge, and it made me think in ways I never thought before as far as, racial inequality and gender inequality.
The class Women, Knowledge, and Power by far, I think, was one of the most influencing classes that I took in the Gender Studies department. I think it really changed the way that I viewed myself as a woman and viewed the history of women and the history of feminism.
When I took feminist theory with Lisa Walker, it was the first time that I developed my own identity as a feminist.
I learned that, women have a very long, powerful history of resistance, and reclaiming a woman's history became really important to me.
It was really liberating to be able to learn how to think for myself about feminist theory. In all the courses following that, I was able to take in the information that I was getting in a new way and filter through it in a way that resonated with me. So I'm very grateful for that course.
A class that I took that really changed things for me was Politics of Difference. It was this class where I just my identity came together, and I started realizing all these things that I had never thought about before, and reading all these books that I loved all of them, and they really changed my perspective, and I really started to feel myself growing after that class.
The most memorable class for me at this point is my Arab Women Writers class. It was really cool to get perspectives from non-American, non-European on the world and what the changes in the world have really meant to everybody.
One of the classes that I thought was interesting was Wendy Chapkis's Sociology of the Body class. When people look at me, they make some assumptions based on my skin color and my hair, and actually in that class I was inspired to share a PowerPoint I created for a project for Love Your Body Day, in which I share my experience with my insecurities about my hair, and it kind of empowered me.
One of my favorite classes was Deepika's class that focused on the partition of India in 1947, and I had never had a class that was so specific to one event in history like that. And I felt all of a sudden like I was learning so much about one part of history that I had no other knowledge about. And it was amazing to me just to have that outside perspective of someone who was from India and who, could talk about it in a way that made it much more real.
One of my favorites was definitely contemporary lesbian authors. It was just material that I had never worked with before. I don't know, it was material that I would not have been introduced to otherwise, and it really challenged me.
So a lot of the other classes I took related to linguistics, sociology, political science, and I was always amazed at how well they interacted with each other. And the stuff that I learned in women and gender studies classes, it was really applicable.
One of the classes that I thought was the most interesting was a class on Eastern cultures and women in Eastern cultures, specifically veiling, and the idea of being covered, and I don't know, I kind of felt like I found myself in there, even though I wasn't an Eastern woman and I didn't veil myself. I felt like I was covering who I was by the way that I dressed, or the makeup that I wore, or how I didn't present myself as being who I was. So those classes were really important.
It just feels really awesome to have that ability to see things from multiple ways, and allows you to recognize that the world is more colorful than we may think it to be. So.
As far as just for fun classes, I took so many. Politics of Difference, definitely. I mean, that was when I discovered that all these different things about myself. I don't know if there's one particular class that I could recommend. I would just say that you should just definitely major and take them all, because there's not anyone that you won't like.